globalization side. If we accept that globalization as it has been practiced is not a way to align the pursuit of profit with American interest, then what comes after? That turns out to actually be a very hard question. Do you want to have a global tariff? Do you want to have what Trump calls reciprocal tariffs, targeting specific countries? Do you want to have a broader free trade zone where you still can have free trade, but then a border around that? And then how much can tariffs actually do? Because I think, and we can talk about this more if folks are interested, I think tariffs are part of an effective response, but they're not going to solve it themselves. You also need to do more to make productive domestic investments more attractive. That typically falls under the heading of industrial policy, whether it is just directly supporting certain kinds of investments, supporting a lot of workforce training. There are all sorts of things you can do to pick winners among those parts of the economy that you realize you actually care more about seeing succeed. The second piece is on what I would call worker power. And this is the recognition that if you want good outcomes for workers, workers actually need to have the leverage to demand good outcomes, right? There's only one situation under which an employer will raise a wage from $17 an hour to $18 an hour, and that is if he can't find the labor he needs at $17 an hour. So you both want to do things that make labor more productive. You also want to do things that don't give employers any option except to make the available labor more productive. And so that's where I think immigration policy that restricts particularly less skilled labor coming into the country becomes very important. And that's where labor unions themselves become very important. And that's where you start to see Republicans making a lot of outreach to labor, labor making a lot of outreach to Republicans. And what I think the Republican Party is saying at this point is we don't like those elements of big labor that basically operate as an arm of the Democratic Party. That's a very rational thing for them to think. But we do like the idea of labor. We do like the idea that workers have organizations that support them and give them power and put them on a more level playing field with employers. And then the third piece is the financial market piece, and asking what needs to happen differently, frankly, to discourage the sort of unproductive activity that goes on so much in financial markets. And so this is where you see sort of interesting little things like the so-called carried interest provision that gives basically private equity managers a lower tax